So, what did you think when you were going to Taiwan? Why did you decide to go there, or were you sent?
I was sent. I was curious. I was interested. I'd never been. I mean, I'd been to Europe a couple of times, but I'd never been to Asia. And I was first plunked down on Okinawa, which is a little island that was the headquarters for our Army Security Agency detachment. And I knew I didn't want to stay on Okinawa. It's not a place you want to live. And so...
Why not?
Oh, it's flat. The people are not very interesting. They just don't have a culture that's interesting. And they're not really Japanese, but they're not really anything else either. I never saw a pretty girl the whole time I was on the island. I mean, the food isn't any. So, but Taiwan is Chinese, it really is Chinese. And your grandma was in college with Chiang Kai-shek's granddaughter, Amy Jiang. So the American Army didn't want me to have a wife on Taiwan. They wouldn't let her come to Okinawa. I was just married, I got off the boat in Okinawa and I was waiting for my wife, and the Army wouldn't let her come on Okinawa. We controlled all the visas there, and all the entrance to the island. And I got finally to the highest sergeant in the whole American Army in Okinawa, and he sat back at his desk and he said, "Son, if the Army wanted you to have a wife, they'd have issued you one." So I knew I wasn't going to get very far there, and you may not want this whole story, but so I worked really hard, and a few of us got chosen to go down to Taiwan to actually man the work, do the work down there, and so I made sure I was one of the ones. So then Amy Jiang, Susan's friend, just took her down to the consulate in San Francisco, and when Chiang Kai-shek's granddaughter walked into that consulate, you bet, "Yes, ma'am." And usually the visa takes 6 weeks or 2 months to process. It was like, "Here's the visa, ma'am. Anything else we can do for you?" So she just had her visa like that, and she flew to Taiwan when she wanted to fly to Taiwan. It was like simple. So then she got there, and we got a house together, and I didn't have to live on the post, and it was a pretty good life. It turned out, of course, that Taiwan was a fascinating place, but a very strong, very terrible dictatorship.
Why did you say it was a fascinating place?
Well, because people lived differently. They had marketplaces that were lively places. They had, the night markets, and they had a different music and, different kinds of things going on. You got around, there were no taxis at that time. They didn't have cars yet, really, except the Americans, so we rode in pedicabs. I actually went out to the airport and picked her up in a pedicab, and we rode. The guy had to bicycle us all the way into Taipei from the airport. And it was sort of a surprise, but it wasn't the happiest surprise. It was hot sun. Anyway, and we had a servant. I mean, I was a corporal in the U.S. Army. We had a servant, because the Chinese wages were so low. Her husband was a colonel in the Nationalist Army, and she made more money as our maid than he made as a colonel in the army. Of course, he got rice and a house and stuff too, but it was a clear indication of imperialism. So,
yeah, you mentioned there was a terrible dictatorship there?
Yeah, secret police.
What was going on there, and where did the U.S. stand in that?
Oh, the U.S. backed him fully. It was, Chiang Kai-shek was our puppet, and we were going to stand behind him, so we did. And he had a big army, the Nationalist Army, the Kuomintang, had retreated from the mainland. Of course, at that time, we called it, we said the mainland had fallen to the communists. It was later when I got to mainland China, and people said, "Oh, that was liberation." So it just depends on which side of the line you were on, but, and all we knew was the communists were the bad guys, and the good guys weren't much better.
So when you came to
But they were our good guys.
So when you came to Taiwan first, you thought the communists were the bad guys. And did you ever think that the people in Taiwan were the good guys? Or?
Well, the people were. I mean, we made friends there who were really wonderful people. And you know, they just didn't. You couldn't talk about anything very interesting because everybody knew there were microphones in the light fixtures and stuff. You just, if you had something important to say, you walked outside and down the sidewalk a ways and said it. But even in your car, you couldn't trust that there wasn't somebody hadn't put a microphone in the fender of your car or something. I mean, it was and people went to jail for saying the wrong thing.
So how much worse did you think the communists were?
Well, I just, you know, it was just a matter of like religion. How good do you think Jesus is? You know? It's like they were the bad guys. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were, you know, and we were with the people that were around us. So it's I hadn't thought much about it.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of propaganda, you know. It was
Okay.
like